For me, I didn't necessarily connect the dots. I didn't realize that what I was experiencing was necessarily connected to my hormones until I started experiencing some cognitive issues.
Welcome to Unstoppable at Any Age. I'm Dr. Shawna Darou, naturopathic doctor, master's athlete, and founder of a global movement helping women train for their future health. This podcast exists for one reason: to expand what you believe is possible with age. Each week I sit down with women who are redefining the trajectory of their lives, athletes, scientists, founders, and leaders who are continuing to build strength, performance, and momentum in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Along the way, we explore the science of metabolic health, movement, and longevity, and the daily decisions that protect your brain, your body, and your future. Because how you move today determines how you live tomorrow. This is Unstoppable at Any Age. Welcome to Unstoppable at Any Age. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Sarah Katz, who is an elite track and field athlete currently competing in the pentathlon, and I'll let her explain what that means. She is shockingly 47 years old and also works full-time as a lawyer. I first met Sarah in November when I joined the UTTC Masters track team, and she's been super inspiring to me. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, you were one of the first people I wanted to interview for this because watching you train and how you still take sports so seriously and competitively is really inspiring to me. Let me ask you a few questions. So you've been an athlete your whole life, right?
Yeah, so I would say yes. I started off in gymnastics really young, doing mom and taught gymnastics with my mom. I feel lucky because she introduced me to a lot of different activities in sport because she didn't have that opportunity growing up. But my even though gymnastics, like I loved gymnastics and I would do it every day, probably all day, my parents wouldn't let me focus on it solely. It was important to them that I had other interests. And so it wasn't until university where I really was able and had the opportunity to take sports seriously. But prior to that, there were lots of other things that I was doing alongside sport.
Okay. So university is where you got into track. Is that when the running started?
Yeah, I showed up. So in high school, I did some track just for fun. We didn't really have facilities. I would, show up to metros when I qualify. I thought like maybe long jump would be something that would work well since I was jumping well off of just gymnastics training. So in my first year, I showed up to the track team, but I had missed tryouts. And at the time, Molly Killingbeck is a famous Canadian track and field athlete, was coaching. She was the head coach, and she just looked me up and down and was like, come back next year. My first year, I wasn't really explored some other options. I did like cheer, which was fun. And I also auditioned for the dance program at York because I was into musical theater and dance in high school, and I was pretty good. And I got into the dance program in my second year. But at the same time, I decided to try out for the track team. So initially I was doing both.
But you've always been a high achiever juggling lots of things.
I honestly didn't feel like a high achiever. I would not have described myself as a high achiever growing up, especially in primary school. I struggled a lot, experienced a lot of bullying. Even in high school, I was able to explore a little bit more, come into myself a little bit more. But it wasn't until university where I really, I think, was able to see what I was capable of, both in sports and outside of sport as well. It was an evolution.
That's so cool. Yeah, like why don't you tell everybody where you've landed? Because you have two professional degrees now and you're an elite athlete. So I'd love to hear more about that journey.
Yeah, it's a long, winding journey. And so I'll try to keep it concise. But it took me some time to figure out what I wanted to focus on in school. I had a lot of different interests. coming in, and I think I took a dance kinesiology class when I was in a dance major, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, this is something I love. And I didn't really have a major science background in high school. I took a whole variety of different courses, but I never saw myself really going into the sciences until I found kinesiology that I loved. And then I had the opportunity to be a research assistant in a stroke recovery lab with one of my profs. I was really interested in neuroscience, but I found that I wasn't really getting it without the face to face with patients. There was something missing. So I decided to go into nursing. So that was my second degree. But I was in one of the first cohorts for the second degree program at York. So it's a 2-year program. And during that period of time, I was still training and kept in touch with kinesiology through personal training that I did as my job on the side. Yeah, and then I went into public health nursing, and I did that for almost a decade.
Okay, so what got you into law then? I don't know what year you graduated, but it's a big leap to me. I don't know how those link together.
I graduated from nursing a long time ago. I don't even,
Yeah.
it's like a
Yes.
long time ago. I'm almost coming up to 20 years of like having my nursing license, which is
Right.
wild to me.
Yeah.
But being in public health, being a public health nurse, I was going into people's homes. I was working all over the city. What really left a major impact on me was working in a program where it was working with families for the most part, and it was families on social assistance. So I was really seeing the impact of policy on health directly. And I really didn't have the power in that position to do things like improve social assistance benefits or improve access to healthcare, improve access to employment. There were so many issues that these people encountered that kind of kept them from being able to like basically get off of social assistance. And I wanted to be in a better position to have an impact on the system as a whole. So I did a master's in bioethics where I focused on social determinants of health. So I did that while I was nursing. And then I decided to go into law because I felt like that would be a good avenue. It would open so many doors for me to have an impact on the system as a whole. So that was what motivated me to do that.
That's incredible. That's a huge risk to take with your career
Yes.
and following your passions to jump into that.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
doing the master's worked really well. I was in this program with all these other health professionals. And law school, I took for granted that I was like, oh, I can do this. I can do anything. But it was a challenge. I went to law school when I was 36,
Mhm.
and it was a lot more rigorous than I expected it to be. I'm used to balancing a lot, but it was a lot, especially at that age. It was challenging.
But congratulations, you did it. You've been working in that field for quite a while now. And
Yeah.
now I can see how you would take some leaps in terms of sports as well and not be afraid to take a risk. So, when you were a track athlete, like back in York days, or what did you compete in then? What were you doing?
So I started off in the jumps.
The
Coming in,
jumps,
I
yeah.
was like, okay, long jump was fun for me. But I had a coach he coached multi events. Actually, Greg Portnoy, he still coaches like Olympic level athletes now. And I was lucky that he introduced me to pole vault and triple jump. So I did that for a couple of years. And kind of during that time, I connected with a sprint coach to work on my speed for jumps. And I discovered that, wait a minute, this is something that I really enjoy
Mm.
and something that I'm actually pretty good at. It was fine at the jumps, but sprinting seemed to be something that really came a lot easier to me, especially the long sprints. So then I moved up to like the 60 and 300. And I
Mm.
had quite a bit of success at those distances in university.
That's so cool. Like through your adult life, have you always been in sports? Has track and field been part of that the whole way, or have there been breaks in there?
Track's been a part of my life since that period of time, since I
Hmm.
started university. But I've avoided pigeonholing myself into a particular sport identity. And
Hmm.
even outside of track, that's something that's been important to me. I ended up moving up in distance, focusing on the 600 in my last year of university, and then moving up to the 8 after that. And then I competed in the 400 and 800 for a while. And like up into my master's years, basically. But I had a couple of injuries during that time, some more serious injuries, some fractures, and I was introduced to cycling. So that's something that I have continued to do as cross training, but like absolutely love. I've maintained that on the side.
It's great because that protects your identity and it protects your happiness and joy from having it just fixated on one thing. Because injuries can happen
Yeah.
for sure. So, if somebody's listening and they wanted to go back into a track and field, or they thought multi-sport was fascinating, or they remember long jumping or hurdling from high school, what would you say to them?
Go for it. I would say go for it. There's really nothing standing in your way. If you have access, we're very lucky. This club that we're at had access to all these different events. If you're able to do that, if you've got access to it, you go for it. There's really nothing stopping you. If you have an interest, explore it. Age shouldn't be and isn't a factor, or even level of experience. If you have an interest, give it a try. You never know where it'll take you and what other avenues it might open up or interests.
Yeah, I've been really pleasantly surprised how inviting the Masters track community has been and how easy it was to just start. I was definitely not, I'd never worn spikes before. I'd never run on a track before. That was never part of my identity. I went from the marathon to the 800 now.
Yeah, which is
So,
amazing. I
yeah.
love seeing your evolution and also your curiosity and like willingness to try different things and explore what lights you on fire. And I think that's just what it is. If there's something that like excites you,
Hmm.
and you go for it.
Yeah. I was surprised. I talked to so many people last weekend at the Masters competition, and so many people started like in their 50s.
Yeah.
So many. And that just made me feel right at home because I thought I was like late to join. And that story just came up over and over again. People had either been like athletic in high school or university and then stopped for 20 or 30 years and then come back, or had just been like into fitness and then
Yeah.
thought they would give it a try because a friend brought them along. So it's very cool. I was super impressed by how fast some of the like 70-year-olds were sprinting. Wow.
Yeah. It's impressive.
And I'm like, there's no excuse.
No. And a lot of those, I think those women in particular, like Carla and Wendy, I think Carla didn't really start training seriously till she was like in her 50s as well, maybe even
Mhm.
older. And she's like a multiple world record holder now.
I know. I can't wait to
Yeah.
get her on this interview as well.
Yeah.
She's super inspiring. I got to hang out with her quite a bit on the weekend. So
Yeah.
lucky.
She'll be awesome. I'm excited for you to have her.
I know. So tell everybody what the pentathlon is, because I've just hinted at that. It's multi-sport. And so you competed last weekend. What are the events?
So the pentathlon's the indoor multi-event. So it's 60-meter hurdles, it's high jump, shot put, long jump, and 800.
That's awesome. And what's the outdoor version?
The outdoor version's usually the heptathlon, although sometimes they also do a pentathlon outdoors. The heptathlon is 7 events, and it's 100-meter hurdles, 200 meters, 800 meters, shot put, javelin, high jump, long jump. I think that's 7. Did I?
That's 7.
I think that's 7.
Oh, that's so funny. And do you do that in the summer as well, like in the outdoor season, or no?
I haven't done a heptathlon yet, but I'm
Okay.
doing the training for it. So at some point, I'd like to do one.
Okay. So what drew
Yeah.
you to it? Is it the challenge, or it sounds like you've had all of those skills before through your life?
Yeah,
Maybe not
the
the
challenge.
throws.
Yeah, I know. But it's definitely like the challenge is part of it. I felt like, I had focused on middle distance for so many years and like slowly been working my way up in distance. I had done the 800, a few 1500s, which I really didn't enjoy, and some road racing as well. But I was starting to find that I was losing my spark for the distance work and maybe feeling a bit burned out by it. And I thought, I'm not really ready to leave track. So I need to switch it up and I need to explore other interests. And I also was at a stage where I was like, I don't really want to move up. If I'm going to make a change, I want to move down and I want to work on my speed and power, which I felt also I was losing over the years, and that was frightening to me. So it was like a few different things. It was the challenge, fighting a bit of burnout and wanting to stay in sport and explore.
That's awesome. I like what you said about the power and the speed, because that's something that a lot of women aren't, they don't acknowledge that we're losing that. And that's actually what brought me to the track team as well, is just noticing that I didn't have as much of a like a sharp reflex, and I didn't want to lose it before it was gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and over the years, people typically like even outside of track, like they'll do road races and then the next lot you do a 5K and then you do a 10K and maybe you train for a marathon. And that's great. I think it's great for fitness, it's great for community, but we lose. How often are people typically sprinting all out in real life? And when you don't use it, you lose it. Maintaining that aerobic fitness is great, but so is that speed and power that we lose that tends to disintegrate at a greater rate as we get older.
Yeah, I always say that I'm grateful that I don't have a background because I have nothing to compare to. Because I know like a lot of the people on the team are comparing to their university level self in terms of speed and pace and things like that. But I've been pleasantly surprised in 4 months how much speed I've gotten. And not like you speed, but for me, it's been leaps and bounds.
You're pretty fast, Shawna. People don't know. She's fast. And she's just exploring that. You're really excited to see where you go, especially with the shorter events, because you've just started. And it's like anything else. If you put the work in, you're going to see the results. The more speed work you do, the faster you're going to get.
It's so much fun. I had
And
no
it is
idea.
fun. And
Like,
that's the other thing.
it
It's
is so
fun.
much fun. Like to put on spikes and run as fast as you can.
Yeah.
It's a
And
blast.
that's just as important as anything else. It's the fun, it's finding the joy as well at this stage. Like it's great. We all have our goals. We all have things that we want to achieve, which continue as we age, but fun, we should never lose the fun. That really should be like the priority, I think.
No, but that's the motivator, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Set a goal and have a challenge. But if you're not enjoying the process, there's no point.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hours of training. So,
Yeah.
how do you fit it all in? Like, how do you stay grounded and train like this with, especially with all of those events? I always laugh at how many shoes you
Yeah.
have in your bag every day.
No, they don't fit in the bag anymore. It's hard. Honestly, like I enjoy the variety. I enjoy the challenge right now, but it's a balance. And so I have to really be intentional with my time. There's a few things that I don't compromise on, and food and nutrition, rest and sleep, and also social time. So if I'm able, when I'm able to get it right, it's a good balance, but it's hard. It's tough. And for now, I'm enjoying it. But if it becomes overwhelming, I think at a certain point, I'd probably maybe look at focusing on fewer events. So it's easier to
Right.
balance. But for now, I like it. But it does take a lot of intentional work with meal prep and making sure I'm getting into bed, having things
Mhm.
prepped for the day, and sticking to my timelines at times with things, which is tough. So
You're so good at fueling. I have been super impressed with that because I don't know a lot of, I guess, like female elite athletes, but you really seem to nail it because it's essential, right? If you're going to perform and get through these super long days and practices.
yeah, and I've really had to be intentional with multi events, especially with the longer days of training. I have to have nutrition with me and make sure that I'm getting nutrition in before and after. Like the
Mm.
whole day has to be fueled consistently. And for the most part, I get it right, but it's hard. It's tough.
Hmm. That's why you're meal prepping on a Sunday, right? So that
Yeah.
you've got yourself set up to succeed through the week. Because I don't know how many late nights you have with practices and everything, but it's definitely more than I do.
Yeah, I try to set myself up well, but also give myself a little bit of space to relax. So that is, I'm still trying to get that right some days.
It's all about prioritizing your time and what's important to you. Because I hear from a lot of people with big careers that they don't have time to exercise or they don't have time for the sport that they want to do. And honestly, I build my schedule around my workouts and my training because it's a priority. But curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I understand it's challenging. And when you've got a lot to balance and maybe you have a family as well, it's a challenge, but I do the same thing. Like I prioritize my workouts. I'm fortunate to have a job in law that has pretty regular hours. And I was also
Mhm.
intentional about choosing a role that allowed me to continue to train and do other things outside of work because it's important to me. And I've always done that with work. It's tough, but I think ensuring that I've got the balance right is trying to
Yeah.
do.
Well, you put more attention than a lot of people do, though, at filling all of those cups that you have the time for social life and you have the time for training and you have the time for rest and recovery and then work is there as well. So I'm sure it's going to fluctuate a little bit week by week depending on what the demands are and which of those needs a bit more attention.
It's tough. It's a tough balance at times. And I think if you're really intentional about it, you can do it. It's just figuring out what your priorities are and how to build your schedule around it. And then getting some support as well is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So, something that we've talked about a lot behind the scenes is perimenopause and hormones and body changes. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this again, especially as such a high level athlete, because in my practice, I don't get to talk to too many people like you. I know your body's been very sensitive to hormone changes through your 40s, and I can certainly share some of my experience with you as well. But did
Yeah.
you notice how your body was responding differently to training in the past few years? And what has that felt like?
Definitely. I've definitely noticed a change in the last few years in a variety of different areas. So, like physically, I noticed just changes in my ability to recover, needing more sleep, really also like making sure that I got my nutrition, but also the timing. I just felt like I was a little more sensitive to going too long without food. And sleep, I still sleep well, but it's not quite the same as it used to be. So making sure that I've got enough time in bed has become really important. But I've also noticed just changes in my joints and my mobility. And so really being intentional about getting mobility in, which is always something else to juggle, but it's like a non-negotiable as well. But for me, I didn't necessarily connect the dots. I didn't realize that what I was experiencing was necessarily connected to my hormones until I started experiencing some cognitive issues. And it was actually not it was a TikTok that I saw where another professional, she was basically talking about how she was finding it hard to do her job. And she was describing some symptoms that I was experiencing, like brain fog and forgetfulness, losing words mid-sentence. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm experiencing. And I thought initially, I think maybe I'm developing ADHD or something's different. And when I went to my doctor, who I'm very fortunate specializes in women's health and menopause care, she was like, yeah, what you're experiencing could very well be symptoms of perimenopause. And I said, but my labs are normal. And she said,
Mhm.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about, like it doesn't necessarily, just because you have normal labs doesn't mean that you're not experiencing these fluctuations that are causing these symptoms.
Yeah, because it's the fluctuations, not the absolute levels. A lot of women have very normal cycles through their 40s. And so they assume that's not what's going on. And the thing I find fascinating about perimenopause is that it hits everyone a little bit differently.
Mhm.
So everyone's constellation of annoying symptoms is going to look a bit different. It's interesting that the cognitive ones were the ones that sort of cued you in.
Yeah.
For me, it was the sleep disruption that eventually cued me in. Although, if I look back the 5 years before, I had two frozen shoulders.
Oh gosh.
I had a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, mood swings were more than I'd ever experienced before, but it was really the structural stuff that was my sort of first flag. And
Yeah.
that probably started, I think, the first frozen shoulder. I was only 41, and menopause for me wasn't till 52. So that was like a whole decade of gradual changes.
And looking back as well, like there are other things that I was experiencing that were similar, like more tendinitis that just was stubborn and recurring tendinitis. And I actually have a calcification of one of my hamstring tendons. So may or may not be
Mhm.
related to hormone changes. So very similar and just just general aches and pains that were more significant than they used to be. And it's always hard because you're like, is this hormones or is this aging? What is this? And we don't
Yeah.
always know.
No,
But I,
there's no perfect answer because there isn't a lab test that tells you. Because, yes, some of it is
oh,
aging and wear and tear, for sure. If you've been hard on your body for years, there's going to be some development of arthritis and tendency for injuries, but it's the pattern of it. And the tendons are a major weak spot with hormone shifts.
yeah.
And that's often where a lot of the issues start because the tendons literally become shorter and more brittle.
Yeah. And you can feel it. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's
Yeah,
very frustrating.
it is.
I have to say though, like HRT has been life changing for me. I really didn't expect such a significant improvement with such a current low dose. I'm sure that'll change going forward, but currently, like, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And so much of what I was experiencing was likely related to hormones and also anxiety. Just my baseline
Mhm.
anxiety, I noticed a significant improvement, which has helped so much in almost every area of my life.
Yeah. So, how long ago did you start with the hormones?
It's been several months now. I want to say 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all pretty
Yeah.
new. And
Yeah.
so the brain fog was like your barometer, though, right? In terms of symptoms,
Yes.
because the others were uncertain whether they were hormone connected
At first, yeah,
at
at
first.
first. But I
Yes.
would say like the most disruptive to all areas of my life was the brain fog and the word finding issues and forgetfulness.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you're right. There was no one lab test that said you should start hormones now. And your hormones, from what you told me, looked particularly good for your age still as well. It is interesting. And again, I've just been fascinated learning this from you about how impactful it's been in terms of your life and your training and how your body's responded because you know your body so well because you demand a lot of it. And it is definitely a scenario where some women can get some phenomenal improvements in their overall health and well-being starting hormones a bit earlier, so before menopause actually comes.
Yeah, and I felt it's been so nice to have you to talk to about it because this is all new to me and starting HRT was a little daunting. And what does that mean for me and my identity?
Right.
And having someone to talk to about that who's also an athlete has been so helpful, like amazingly helpful for me. And now I try to talk to some of the younger women or women in their earlier 40s to give them a heads up of what to look for because I wish I'd known earlier, at least been a little more prepared for it, other than we hear about the vasovagal.
But those come much later in the
Yeah.
transition. Those
Yeah,
are
but,
like the last symptoms, not the ones that kind of pull the rug out from underneath you before that.
but that's what I was expecting. I was like, I'm guess I'm gonna, these hot flashes are gonna materialize at some point. I didn't expect cognition to be an issue at all.
Yeah, and you're not a typical candidate for it either, honestly. Like usually that's like the blood sugar insulin resistant picture, which I don't think you have the way you fuel and eat and train and body type. It would be shocking to me. So it is
Yeah.
interesting that it affected you more cognitively than otherwise, because that's usually not the pattern I see. Usually I would expect more of the anxiety, sleep disruption, joint issues.
I did have some fasting sugars that were like a little slightly high.
Mm.
And I don't know, it's hard to know if that was perimenopause or just I had eaten the day before or some other factor, but it's possible. It's very possible that there were issues there. And I have had blood sugar issues in the past. So who knows? Don't know
Maybe
yet.
you just train your way through it and it is something in the background.
It's possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. I encourage women as well to, from my perspective, like in my practice, I usually start with all the other like foundations first before we jump to hormones in the 40s, but it is on the table as a possibility. And what you found is it was a very low dose that made all the difference.
It's been phenomenal and it's such a low dose. And I've been fortunate that I haven't really had significant any side effects. It is a low dose, but it's all been quite positive for me. But I didn't anticipate starting HRT. I thought maybe in a few years down closer to
Mhm.
menopause, but clearly it's helpful during this time as well. So
Yeah, there's not a clear standard of care for perimenopause.
yeah, it drives me nuts, the whole current scenario, lack of protocols, but maybe that's just me.
I think we're going to come to more standard of care as we go. And the more people that speak about their experiences with hormones, without them, how their perimenopause is going, what tools are helpful, how we adjust our training. For me, the main adjustments with perimenopause are mobility and
Yeah.
strength training. And for me, those are absolutely non-negotiable now. And I
Mhm.
know for you as well. Can you talk a little bit more about that to women who are maybe athletic or starting to be athletic and maybe not filling in those gaps?
Yeah. I think as we get older, it becomes more and more important to try to hold on to that muscle that we've got or build muscle. Because as we age, especially beyond the age of even 30, we lose quite a bit each decade and then it accelerates as we get older. Trying to maintain muscle mass is important, but it also helps your sports. Like at pretty much any sport, you can benefit from being stronger and being more coordinated, being more efficient. With running, it helps pretty much every facet of training. And it's never too late to start. You can start anytime. And even just a couple of times a week, you can have like phenomenal results.
I know you've been helping me lift, which is fantastic because you push me harder than I would on my own, which is awesome. I'm someone who doesn't love strength training, but I do it because I need to. And, what I've noticed, especially since it was very evident at maybe 48, 49, that if I don't strength train, the muscle literally falls off of me, right? It goes so quickly now. I have no trouble building it. It comes back pretty quick. I respond
That's
really
good.
well to workouts, but it
Yeah.
leaves very quickly. And that's concerning in terms of aging and bone density and frailty
Yeah.
and balance and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I feel like, I mean, with strength training, especially when you start, you can like have significant improvements in the first year.
Yes.
And it really gives you like a nice sense of mastery as well. I feel along with all the health benefits, like being strong, being able to see your strength improving over different lifts. I think anyone would get a good sense of accomplishment out of that as well. Lifting heavy is important, but I think that they've shown that even high, you can get a lot out of higher reps as well. But I usually tend to encourage people to keep things relatively heavy so that you're able to have that stimulus to
Hmm.
build muscle as well as build power.
Yes, that's the other
Yeah.
side of it is the quality of the muscle too. It's not just the
Yeah.
size or the weight of it. And I think it has to be, yeah, it has to be fairly heavy to change that. I
I
don't
mean,
know all the science behind it, but I should
yeah.
research it more.
And I teach a fitness class once a week, and there are a lot of women in my class who are fairly new to lifting, and the sense of accomplishment that they get week to week, seeing their strength improve, seeing their coordination improve, it is so motivating for me. And again, like it's just this is a class we have once a week, and these women are making quite a bit of an improvement week to week. It's very encouraging. You can get so much out of not a significant amount of investment time-wise.
Hmm. So if a woman in her 40s or 50s had not been lifting weights already, where would you suggest she start?
If you've got access to a gym, just doing some basic lifting, even if that means just using machines, there's nothing wrong with that. Just getting some basic lifts in with your lower body compound exercises are generally the most helpful. So leg press and squats and lunges, things where you're using more than one joint at once, ups, bench press, pull downs, all of these things like and choosing a couple of upper body and a couple of lower body exercises are great. That's a great way to start. And if you have the ability to access people like a trainer, I think that's always helpful as well to have someone create a program for you, but it's not necessary. You can do it on your own.
I think in the beginning, especially too, because it's not going to be too complicated to start with. And machines are a great place to start because it's safer, like in
It's
terms
safer.
of
Yeah.
alignments or dropping weights or being able to actually lift heavy in a safe way. And a trainer eventually can be super helpful. Or there's some great apps as well. I mean, there's just so much science behind building muscle and staying strong, especially at this age and stage. I'm grateful that you helped me out with the Saturday lifts.
Ah, happy to.
I know. I'm getting strong.
You are. It's
Thanks to
great.
you.
Love it.
I'm still the lightest one of the group, but that's okay.
It's all right.
I had
It's
to pull the
okay.
weights off. You guys put them on.
I saw your deadlifts yesterday. You're getting strong.
Oh, that's right. I didn't take off weights with those ones.
No.
Finally. Okay. So, bigger picture, what are you still curious about in terms of like your body and ambition and sport as you get older?
Yeah, I think it's continuing to find ways to challenge myself, get a good sense of satisfaction out of that. And right now, like with multi events, that it's I'm getting all of that from doing all of these events, some of which like I've never done. High jump is totally new for me, and so are the throws. So it's so much fun to learn these new events, to get like a great sense of accomplishment out of it, getting to compete and then having this great supportive environment that we're lucky to have at U of T. So I think just continuing to challenge myself and like I think about what I want to do in the future, and there's all sorts of things I would be interested in trying, even maybe eventually doing a triathlon would be
Hmm.
cool. And even exploring other sports like climbing, even more winter sports. There's so many things to try and learn. And I think it's just continuing to challenge myself and to do things that I find fun and that I feel like I get a sense of accomplishment with and have this great community with as well.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
I'm
the
looking
key.
for.
Yeah, that's the key
Yeah.
is to just to find the challenge, find the community that you love and keep it fun for life because then you'll be active forever. I thought I was pretty young in my approach to things, but you challenged me as well.
Oh,
Get a
glad.
racing bike for the summer. Okay.
Yeah. So you
Of
can come out
course.
and ride with us.
And I love that. I thought I was pretty good at challenging beliefs, but you get me thinking outside the box every time. It's great.
No, and so do you. It's great. I love having people who are like, but what about this? Have you thought about this? Or even challenge my perspective. Oh, no, I don't think that's something I could do. Why not? Like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I jumped into track thinking I'd get a little bit faster at a 5K. And now I actually really love the 800 and maybe even the 400.
Yeah,
It's
because they're
crazy.
fun.
They're really fun. They're
Yeah.
fast. So, to end with, I want to ask you three quicker questions. So, what's one belief about aging that you've completely rejected?
I think that there's some sort of ceiling on life and that we have to give certain things up as we get older, that I still can't achieve goals and that my goals are still important. Sorry, that's a little nebulous,
No, not
but
at all, actually.
yeah, it's that whole constellation of things where it's like continuing to explore and push myself out of my comfort zones. That's easier to get into as you get older, I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's what you're doing right now with the multisport
Yeah.
is getting out of your comfort zone, challenging yourself. And that's like great cognitively and physically and
Mhm.
building power in different parts of your body. There's so many ways that's a positive in terms of how you're going to age and, what slowing down some of the processes that will happen as they happen. I just loved watching so many people competing last weekend at the competition. And like that just busted a bunch of my beliefs too. Just
Yeah.
watching, just being immersed in that of there are some pretty incredible athletes there,
It's pretty amazing.
just walking around like normal people.
And even within our own group, it's pretty amazing what
Mm.
people are doing.
Oh my goodness, I'm inspired every day. Lucky.
Yeah.
So, what's one training myth women over 40 should drop?
I think just that being the smallest size is the best size and cardio for days is the way to get there. I think that's probably what I choose. And especially now, there's more pressure, even as we get older, to be a certain size. And that cardio is the only thing that we should be doing. And I think that's changing, but I think obviously cardiovascular fitness is important, but it should be the only thing in your training plan.
No, 100%. It's the skinny trend right now is getting a little scary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Taking
And I
taking us
thought we'd
back.
left that behind.
I know, taking us back a couple of decades, and it's scary.
Yeah, I'm especially scared for women going through menopause without
Yes.
muscle on their bodies. Like just that hormone transition is so dangerous to go through if you are underfueled and undermuscled, because
Yes.
I think women lose 20 up to 20% of their bone mass in the first 5 years post-menopause if you don't do
Right.
anything about it. Like
Yeah.
you can counter that. You can stop it if you strength train, if you get your calcium and your vitamin D and do some jumping and possibly use hormones. You don't have to have that trajectory, but it's very alarming to me to see the dramatic weight loss through menopause right now.
Yeah, that's very scary to me.
We're going to oppose that and lift heavy things,
Lift heavy things, run fast.
run really fast. So, what does unstoppable mean to you?
I think it's again like it's being boundaryless as we get older. So society tells us that, as we get older, I think our goals aren't as important or we're not allowed to dream. But I think that's a complete lie that we need to reject. And so being unstoppable to me is pursuing your dreams and goals, not being afraid to dream, and not letting age get in the way of whatever you want to do in sport or in life.
100%. You got to keep dreaming big. Otherwise, what's the point?
No, and like life doesn't end at 30. Like despite what people tell us or whatever, life doesn't end. Life is just starting.
And now we have perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more as we get older that we can hopefully share with people.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking to me today. Again, you inspire me every day, and I love watching you challenge your body. And I've learned so much from you as an athlete. It's nice to be surrounded by other women who are pushing themselves and having big goals and giving me something to walk towards.
I'm so glad. I'm glad we can lift each other up because I feel like that's really the benefit of being in this type of community is can support each other and cheer each other on.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
We will keep you posted with Sarah's next big goals, but thank you again for being here.
It's my pleasure and so glad to be here.
If this conversation expanded what you believe is possible, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. This podcast is part of a global movement called Women Who Move, helping women train for their future health through daily movement. You can join us at drshawnadarou.com. Because strength isn't behind you, it's built through what you choose to do next. I'm Dr. Shawna Darou, and this is Unstoppable at Any Age.